Welcome back to Big Content. My name is Nicholas Anthony Ercolano, and I run Big Dogs Gotta Eat, BDGE, and this is my co-host,
Jack Bennett Settleman.
I need the middle name.
2 N's, 2 T's.
Wow, didn't realize, didn't know Bennett was just sandwiched in the middle there.
Yeah. Jack Bennett Settleman, Snapback Sports Incorporated.
Jack Stenson Bennett Settlestein.
Yes.
What do we got on the docket today?
On the docket today,
I feel like something personal came about here because that number one felt like it wasn't a topic that you just want to normally get into. It felt like you had a reason.
No, that one's deep. So we'll cover for the love of the game. If you guys are new to the podcast, we talk about all things going on in the creator economy. 2 lifelong creators who have built businesses on the back of our creation, and we try and help the young guys out, or not the young guys, the new guys out, or the more experienced guys, or girls.
Could be
we
old.
Help everyone
you're
out.
out of control. This is like me introducing myself.
Everyone out. And on today's show, we're going to talk about for the love of the game. Are you creating content for the love of the game, or are you just trying to make a buck? We'll discuss that. Brett Kollmann, he talked about the future of YouTube. If you don't know him, NFL YouTuber, check him out. But we're going to review his video. He just posted his 5 tips on being a successful YouTuber. And then Nick at Big Dogs Gotta Eat Media LLC Incorporated has just had 2 major events. They did a combine in partnership with Underdog Fantasy, where you could put pick'ems on their content and then on their performance rather. And then they launched a huge launch. If you guys listened to the podcast over a year ago, this was on the podcast. Nick hired a CTO, built out a product. It has finally come to fruition. What is the crossover between content, product, grabbing emails, etc.? And then, we've got some other stuff at the end.
Sure. Let's get right back.
If you hang around that long. But before we get into it, subscribe. Actually, don't subscribe. That's not our call to action. Our call to action is share this with a friend in which you think this would be helpful to them. So if you share with a friend, they come in, then we hit them with the CTA. Subscribe. Join us on this journey. Go ahead.
That was a very long
high energy. That's good,
table
no?
of content. That's big, yeah. You're usually not. You're usually asleep. You're usually checking Snapchat by this point. Let's go back to number 1. You said, are you creating content for the love of the game? You're saying there's too much monetization of content going on right now.
So my thought is...
Was there a specific piece of content that you came across that you were like, this is terrible content, but this guy's pushing monetization, and now it's just a larger picture of what's going on?
No, it's actually people like Will, our producer.
He's the worst, yeah.
He's great. But my concern is, because of the success of creators and the creator economy and media in general, everyone is thinking their 10-step plan. And I just want to make sure that I genuinely would not advise anyone of getting into this world unless they are obsessed and in love with the content, and they could do it for years without making $1. And I think because we're on the show and we're saying, here's how to scale your business, people are skipping those steps. Would you be okay making this content every day for 3 years without making $1?
This is, you sound like me, episode 1 on this thing.
Yeah.
But I genuinely cannot find successful, sustainable creators that didn't start that way. I'm sure you could figure it out in a short-term field, but anyone who has ever found a lick of real success in the content creation business has just made shit because they loved doing it. And I think the reason that is because when you just love doing something, it comes from an internal place, and internal is where innovation comes from, right? And that's how your content eventually gets out. When you get into it for the wrong reasons, you end up creating what other people create. You just see it and you're like, oh, that's what I should do. You're chasing the puck, right? Rather than being where it should go, whatever the fucking saying is. But people start to do what everybody else does because they saw that that's what got them successful. Yeah. When you create from a place of really loving whatever it is that you're watching, what you're inspired by, you create innovation just in itself because you are making something from nothing. That's what the heart of being a creator is. But I agree with you. I think a lot of it goes back to the entitlement of the numbers that are flying around on a lot of these platforms. And I think TikTok has done a disservice to a lot of creators because of the raw numbers that people get on specific videos and the raw numbers that you can rack up in such a small amount of time. And the mindset about what those numbers meant 10 years ago, it just has not recalibrated with creators in the modern day space of what those numbers actually mean now and what they could do for your life and the impact of it. Like, people will get X number of views on a video or have this many followers or subscribers, and then for some reason feel like they deserve something because of it, right? And it's not like, it's just not what it used to be, and there's a disconnect there that somehow needs to be plugged in.
Well, my Twitter For You page, I guess it's because I stare at the tweet long enough that it keeps feeding me these type, but I keep seeing like this faceless YouTube channel stuff. And it's like, if I started from nothing, I could build a faceless YouTube channel, make $5,000 in revenue. And it's like, yeah, you can make money on social by just trying to monetize shit. But like the people we're speaking to, please like actually love this for the love of the game. Like, the only reason I do this is genuinely because if I were not doing this, I would already be doing it. That sounds confusing. Example, I'm going to go to the Knicks game. I would talk about the Knicks with my friends. I would tweet about the Knicks. I would post Instagram stories about the Knicks. I would be engaged in the NBA playoff discourse. I just happen to do it for a job. So if you couldn't do it just for the love of the game, if you can't sit there and watch every Monday Night Football game because you're going to be doing it anyways, don't do it. So, yeah, there's just everyone's so obsessed with the monetization of it. And I think that I was thinking about, like, does anyone even create content nowadays just to create content without even thinking about the plan down the road? Like, I was thinking about the Part of My Take guys. Like, their podcast, they started the podcast not thinking, like, this could be a multi-million-dollar entity someday. Like, they literally just wanted to get jokes off with each other. And I think that has been lost. Everyone seems to have a monetization plan. And I think when it comes from, if it's from a business perspective, right, you're not going to start a new vertical just for the fun of it. But maybe you should.
I would if I loved it enough.
Right.
I don't think there are enough things that I'm like, knowing where I'm at now and knowing the amount of work it would take for me to be okay with doing it. Because there's a trade-off now in terms of like my time to put into that and knowing where I need to put some of my time. If it was something I loved enough, I would be fine starting it with no repercussions of monetizing anytime soon. I mean, not too dissimilar from what we're doing here. I do want to kind of like backtrack on that though, because we've had a conversation about you starting content. When you originally started a long time ago, you didn't start because you wanted to make content. Like, you started because you wanted to build a business and you realized that content was like the way to do that.
Yes.
And now it sounds like your mindset has shifted a little bit.
I'm glad you called that out because I'm a fraud.
That's what I'm here for.
I was always, and I am obsessed with sports, trying to figure out the optimal way to do that. I'm okay with. Like, I'm okay if you want to optimize your stuff, but do you want to be making certain types of videos just because it's going to get you viewership and following? Like, if I'm obsessed with soccer, do I go and do football just because it's going to lead to better monetization purposes?
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
that's kind of where this is all coming from.
Yeah, that's a question. I mean, we get that question 8,000 times a day. You guys going to start doing basketball stuff? You're going to cover fantasy basketball? You're going to do basketball trivia, whatever. It's just like, it's not internal to us, you know?
Right.
And it's such a bad long-term play, and it's something that will fade out so quickly if we don't want to put our time and energy into that for the long term. So I guess, like, kind of going down that point, there are a lot of people that do have something that they love and they start creating. And I think the hardest thing to get over is that first 6 months or a year or 2 years or 3 years with no promise of anything in return to the content, saying that they love it. And we actually got a question in the Discord the other day. There's a kid within the Big Content Discord who has been posting on TikTok regularly and started to get like a lot of traction, but his page was all like funny, like meme pages. And he's like, I'm kind of burnt out creatively. I just started a new job and I don't really have time to like keep up with my page. And that is almost like,
He doesn't like it.
Right. And that was where I'm like, you're starting to stop. You're not thinking about it clearly anymore. You've gotten yourself to put this thing on a pedestal that you're not even like asking yourself whether or not you want to keep doing this anymore. If you got to the point where you're like, I'm forcing myself to like create, what you were creating to begin with was a fun outlet for you, but you might not need that outlet anymore, right? And if it ever gets to a point where you don't need that outlet anymore, that's fine, because you're probably being fulfilled elsewhere. So like the art of creation for me came from a place of like, this is how I express myself. Like I literally don't know how else to get it out there in the world, whether it's like to my friends or someone else, but it felt so comfortable to me to be on camera. So I was like, I want to continue doing this because this is how I'm like growing as a person. As weird as it sounds, like that was the best way for me to get my thoughts out and have a clear stream of consciousness. And I think the best creators, the ones that will last the longest and the ones that are really going to be able to ride it out for like the decade, are the ones that start from some sense of that. Not doesn't need to be as pure as that, but it needs to be from some sense of like, I'm doing this purely for fulfillment thing inside me.
I don't want to say you can't get burnout from your passion.
Sure.
But it's got to be, if you're passionate about something, it's got to be hard. And it's got to be years and years to burn you out.
Yeah.
Like if you love the NBA and it's like, I watch every single one of my team's games, and after 6 years, they suck forever, and it's just like, all right, I'm kind of burnt out from it. But like halfway through a season, you're burnt out. I don't really buy that, like, that's your obsession.
Yeah, 100%, because I've been there before with covering football. Like, I get burnt out sometimes, but a lot of the times, too, once you're in the creation game, you're not necessarily burnt out from football, but you're burnt out from all of the things that now surround that topic that you once loved. And maybe it's the feeling of, I mean, if you're an individual creator and you're covering a topic you love, you're probably doing the editing and you're probably making the thumbnails and you're probably doing all this stuff from the start. And that could be a burnout. And now you start to associate it with that like topic up front. So,
well, yeah, you're just burnt out from creating content.
Exactly.
But not actually from that topic.
Yeah. So like the creating content part, I could understand why that would be a little bit tough for you. So it's like finding the right expression for yourself, like whatever type of content it is, that feels like it's free flowing. And a lot of people might just write, and a lot of people want to be on video, and a lot of people want to do podcasts or whatever. So it's like finding that medium that you feel like won't burn you out. A lot of people don't want to fucking edit videos, and I empathize with that. I did for a long time starting out, but eventually you get to a point where it's like that would burn me out. If I had to make content about the thing I love plus fucking edit videos for an extra 10 to 15 hours every single week, that makes sense to me why you can get burnt out. But a lot of you guys, if you're feeling burnout, and you still love the thing that you're doing, that's where you know, like, that's the first thing that you want to get off your plate. And maybe that means getting a part-time job to pay for an editor on the side, because it's just a plus and minus game with your life, right? Like if you want content to be a part of your life long-term, start to look at those things in games of numbers, where it's like, how do we subtract, how do we minus, to make sure that that thing that fulfilled me from the start is continuing to like fill up my cup there, and this other shit is not overflowing it.
All right, let's talk about Brett's video. So if you guys watch the pod, you know we're big fans of Brett. Brett is a NFL YouTuber, but not the traditional kind. And we'll touch on that in this video.
You weren't in here when we watched it in the office, like all of us last week. Yeah.
Yeah, we watched it on the road in Atlanta. So Brett essentially made a video at the NFL Combine, super high quality. And he touched on 5 things. And he said the future of YouTube is this. Tip number 1, audio. He said...
Well, let's like kind of step back and kind of paint the picture of Brett. He's someone who's been like very involved with the NFL, had jobs at the NFL Network, is really, really good with camera work. Most of his videos revolve around breaking down like the X's and O's of NFL teams and a lot of like draft prospect profile type stuff. But he has this itch for helping creators that are coming up, similar to us. And we've talked to him a ton about like the big content show and stuff within that, industry niche, whatever it is. And then, once a year or whatever, maybe a couple times a year, he makes these types of videos where he goes into like, here are things I wish I knew when I was younger. Here are things that, like, if you're in this stage of your content creation career, you should know or are really important, or you should kind of like dive into. And that's what led him to making this video. And as always, like the camera work is flawless, the audio is flawless, the coloring is flawless. Like he's really good. He's really technically sound, and he's just a very like well-spoken creator.
So his first tip was make sure your audio is good before your video is good, which I thought was an interesting take, and I don't hate it. He probably talked to some psychological stuff and used some data too, which proved his point. Pretty much saying like the iPhone camera is going to be good enough for 99% of you guys, and if anything, splurge on a microphone early on and increase that audio.
It's funny because like when I started making videos first, I was in my room and I had like the camera probably 2 feet in front of me.
Welcome back in the lab. Today I'm gonna be doing something a little bit different. I'm not gonna be getting into any, numbers, analysis, any of that shit.
And I didn't have a mic. I didn't have a mic for like 2 years when I first started making content. And I get comments all the time like, fix your audio. Yeah. And I was always like, nah, don't worry about it kind of thing. And looking back on it, like I cringe, of course. Because I think of the point he made like during that actual part of the video was really interesting because he was staring at the football field while the camera was looking at his head from behind, and you were still captivated by the scene and what he was saying. And he was like, I'm proving my point that like the actual video of me doesn't matter. And I think about a lot of TikTok clips of like people who do shit in public because their friend has to videotape them from like 100 feet away. Yeah. That quality's terrible, but the audio is so good that you don't really give a fuck. It's like whether it's like a guy approaching a girl in public or like, the dude who like goes up to like gang members and like does crazy shit like that just to see what happens to it. The video quality's awful, but you just kind of need to know what's going on as long as the audio is super clear. So I 1000% agree because you'll turn a video off immediately if the audio is shitty.
Right. Number 2, he said, focus on the intro. Intro is super, super important to a video. The intro needs to match the title and the thumbnail as well so that you're essentially building that trust right off the bat with them. Something that I want to just point out here, the intro needs to be like focused on probably way more than the rest of the video. Not that you should, give up on the second half of the video, but you got to keep people in and get them in. That doesn't mean you need to like throw a million things at their face and graphic this, graphic that. It just needs to be a quality intro that's going to either meet the intrigue of the title or create intrigue of what's going to come from the rest of the video. So
I'm really happy that the trend of like intros starting out with someone like screaming at you is starting to like slowly die down.
Yeah.
And it's always like these types of trends always fluctuate where it's like this is what works. Because I find myself as soon as someone's volume gets above like a 7, I'm like I'm gone here. But anytime it's like I've almost found that now I look for this. If I notice a trend, I'm like I'm consciously looking for it just because of the job that we're in. I'm like, oh, the most popular videos typically are just someone kind of like talking to you and making a really good point. I'm like, thank God that that's coming more normal again because the other type of shit is again always like just tactic-y type stuff that will never hold itself out for the long run. And on intros, like we that was another thing that I started off not really ever thinking about. And now I do. On my individual YouTube videos, I make sure I say like what we're getting into immediately. And I don't start off with like a whole intro and like who am I and like personal fucking anecdotes. We'll get to that eventually if the video gets to it. And same thing with TikTok. We get like right into what we're doing. It's like today I need y'all to name the top 35 wide receivers. So I agree with the intro stuff.
I don't think that it wasn't in his vibe, but that's an interesting point you make because this video, if you were to look at Brett's channel, it highly underperforms the rest of his content, right?
Yeah.
Because it's something he's passionate about. It's something that he wanted to speak on. And you've sacrificed a little bit of that personal relationship with your fan base. Like there's pros and cons to it, right? And I think you put out enough content, you get the diehards who are going to watch through the rest of the video, but you also are going to attract someone who doesn't care about you. They just care about your rankings and you being an expert. So it's just stuff to value and to think about while you're creating stuff.
For sure. It comes down. Most people, I don't think, are really going to get to the point where like the stakes are that high where they're like, oh my God, my personal brand versus the monetary value of me. Sometimes I realize that the way that I've changed my intro, I'm like, I haven't even introduced myself. Like these people might not have never heard me say, because our channel name is BDGE. Right. They might have never heard me say, my name's Nick in the last 70 videos I made. And I'm like, holy fuck. Like that's actually kind of crazy that these guys probably don't know what BDG stands for. Don't know that my name is Nick. Like I think about that sometimes, and it is a trade-off of whether you want to focus on like the views versus the personal branding versus all that kind of stuff. What I've found is a lot of the times the personal branding does take care of itself as long as like you are yourself over the long run.
Mm-hmm. His number 3 was value, but this is everything. If you've ever listened to an episode, this comes up.
Okay.
I was saying number
I'm
3
bike,
of his
baby.
topic.
I'm fucking back.
But yeah, the value. Are you adding value to your viewer, right? Like, if that is not in some way, if there's zero value creation, no one's watching your video. Like, people have to be coming in for a reason and provide them immense.
Let's dive a little bit deeper into this, because I think this is like one of those points where this comes naturally to great creators, and it's like a flat line for people that don't understand it. Creating value, it's like, what does that fucking mean for a lot of people? The more I've thought about it, I've always come from like a creator, like a teacher or like a professor-ish role when it comes to my content creation. So when I think about it, I'm thinking about, I'm doing enough research that the normal person will just not know what I'm talking about unless I taught it to them. I want them to leave the video having a new opinion on something, or having swayed their opinion on something that they felt strongly about. I want them to learn something that they didn't know before they came into the video. So when I think about that, that's value to me. If I go into a video and the person taught me about a topic that I was unaware of, or like I had an opinion about this person or this team or this whatever, and this person just swayed me to the opposite side, I'm like, that was valuable. That opened my eyes a little bit. And of course, there's other forms of value. There's information, there's the entertainment, there's the motivation, whatever kind of value it comes in. With you guys are much more like entertainment focused. So how do you think about, do you like consciously sit down before making, because I know you guys are very organized with like, this is the trip we're gonna make, like this is the packaging we should think about. Do you guys sit down and say to yourselves, like, what is the value that we're giving the audience, and like how do we portray that throughout the content?
Yeah, so we're adding value to our next set of videos, which is giving an insight. So 3 things. 1, entertainment. So we want to be entertaining, but we really want people to come to the game with us and feel like they're at the game with us. So that's number 1, mix of entertainment. 2 is a lot of like exclusivity, or just opportunities that, the normal person isn't going to have. So they're not going to be able to see those things unless they see it through us. And then 3rd is, now we're making an addition, which is going to be like the extreme value, like if we get to the core of like an actual value play. So at the end of every experience, we're going to sit down in almost like a very short modified podcast version and rate and rank everything. We're then going to create a Google sheet that will be view only for our followers, and they'll be able to come in and see every aspect of every experience we go to, and it will create this mega list.
How are you gonna section it off?
So we'll have 4 categories, which will be food, atmosphere, and then there'll be like unique will be a category. So like, at a Braves game, you can go down the slide, like how cool was that, scale of 1 to 10. I'm trying to think like the bleachers at Wrigley, like that's a little unique, like what's that like? And then the 4th will be like stadium, city, something around like the game around the game. And then we'll have these other categories, gameplay if it applies, and then we'll add notes to it too, like. We might rate the 7 out of 10 food, but like we want to add a note of what we ate and like which one was actually good, which was bad. And then we want to create this like crazy list of what's the best experience in sports. So if you are a sports fan, and then it should dial down into like NFL, right? Like, all right, you're a Falcons fan. Falcons schedule comes out. You're like, I want to see one away game, right, this season. Where should I go? You hit our list. And it's like, oh, wow, I didn't realize they thought going to a Packers game is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Like, let's make sure we go there. Or it's like the Vikings game is actually the best bang for your buck, and I should hit that one. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
That's,
so
that's like it's like when you visit another country or whatever, and they sell the guide, like the travel guides to the country.
Yeah, we want to be travel.
The
guy
ultimate
for
like sports
sport.
guide. That's pretty cool.
And we're trying to hit it all. So that is like our addition.
That's like informational value. That's organizational value for sure. That saves people a lot of time rather than having to try to figure that out.
And it's not going to be possible to. It's going to be very hard to like fully encapsulate every single. Like we can't say what hotel to stay at every single time. But in theory, you can then scale and like give other people the opportunity to go and take our framework. I mean, and create right. Like,
it's not that different than like Prez's One Bite. Right. Like he started by just giving scores. He can't rate every pizza in New York. They make an app, and now there's user submitted ones where they start to they consume the content so much to the point that they know like where they should be rating things, right? Like if you were just like, hey, we're doing a pizza rating app that had nothing to do with Prez, so many of the scores would be like 9.5s, 10s, 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 but they know because they've watched so much content that like you're getting a 9.3, you're talking about some of the best pizza in the entire world, so they kind of rate accordingly.
And we've always rated stuff along the way, but we just kind of did it, and
without any organization. And
dude,
that's like the difference I feel like between like companies and just lawless creators. Like that's the difference between a different level of success is putting so much conscious thought behind the organization of the things that you do.
I don't know if it's the reason why our Snapback Thursday video got 150,000 views on YouTube, but Casey and I, for the first time ever, like we sat down and we debated and we tiered and we ranked and we're like, oh, the food there was versus like just being at a game being like, oh, that's a 7.2.
Right.
But like based off what? Right.
People need structure. That's just human behavior, bro. They need to be told that it fits into this category or this label so that they can compare it to other things. Yeah.
So
it's important.
Yeah, we're gonna do. I mean, we've got baseball games, basketball games, and then a ton of football games coming up, and then we'll continue to go to more sporting events. So yeah, that's like our thought on value. And as getting back to Brett, as he said, adding value is super helpful to people.
Yeah, and the fourth point, yourself is enough, kind of goes back to just like when you do it for yourself, you're doing it from a point of your own thoughts and your own imagination and your own creation. So you will inherently put out things that are innovative that no one else can do or think of. They could do it or think of it, but when you really dive into like what inspires you, it'll always have your flavor on it.
The point he made that I so connected with, because we've gone down like this YouTube Mr. Beastification thing, is if you don't think there's enough people out there who will tune in just because you're not the loudest in the room, the funniest in the room, the most entertaining in the room, whatever it may be, like it's crazy to think, but there is that amount of people for you. Like 500,000 people are subscribed to Brett, and it's like in-depth film breakdowns, right?
Yeah.
Like stuff that, originally you might have said, how am I going to find 10,000 people to watch this? And 500,000 people are watching it. There is an audience for everything. I think of, I watched that movie with the guy who had the GameStop stock. Like, he wasn't entertaining, but like
I wanted to watch that, but I was like, the trailer looks so bad.
People hated it. I thought it was pretty good. It was interesting. But like, there just is an audience for that. And if you're like looking at TikTok, you're like, optimize hook. It's got to be this type of content, clickbaity. It's got to be, this rash stuff. Like there are opportunities.
You just have to like speak what you feel and what you really think. And that actually brings me back to sometimes like when I'm doing research for like fantasy videos, sometimes I find myself being like, yeah, you should draft this guy over this guy. And then I'll be in a draft and I'll be like, that's not actually how I feel. Right. Like, why am I saying the other way around, And I think a lot of people get caught up with content about how they should be saying things, and it's like if you just breathe for a sec and be like, how do I actually feel? Like, what is my point of view on this? And you get that out there, it'll come off really smoothly. And like that is the pure way of creating content that I think a lot of you guys will have success with.
The last one I think is funny because Nick set up Brett's profile with how high tech his video and audio and all this stuff is, and his point was, like, you will get better over time. Your thumbnails will get better over time. Your content creation will get better over time. Your scripting, your production, your video editing, your photo, literally everything will get better over time. And this is a problem that we all have, right? We wish we had the best camera. We wish we had the best audio. We wish, right? That was point one, get your audio up. But, like, you will get there. It just comes from the reps. And that's why, the start of the show, I mentioned, like, can you do this for 3 years, not make $1? Because if you can't, then you might not actually get there. Like, you just need time.
Yeah, and it's all a little bit like self-fulfilling in a sense, right? Like, you'll get better over time. It doesn't mean you will necessarily get better at all these skills over time. For instance, I've gotten a million times better at, like, making thumbnails and designs and graphics because I actually genuinely enjoy doing it. So I invest a lot of time, and it's not time that I'm like, oh, fuck. You know, sometimes I have a lot to do, so I'm like, I don't want to do it. But, like, when I have time to rip off some designs or whatever, I enjoy doing it. But, like, even from your sense, like, maybe you will never make a thumbnail, but you enjoy, like, running the business, and, like, finding someone who can make thumbnails for you is also a skill. Like, the outsourcing is a skill, and putting the right people in place is a skill. And you eventually, like, sharpen the things that you are really good at, which, again, like, kind of self-fulfills the rest of it. So it's all encompassing in a sense. You won't get better at everything, but you'll get better at the things that are necessary for you to get better at to survive.
So that's Brett's video. We will link it down below. Maybe we can pop it up on the screen. And I would suggest checking it out. He wrote The Future of Sports Media. It was really, like, hyper-focused, I felt, on YouTube, which is fine. That's his domain. But I think, like, he also did a video at some point last year that was actually about sports media as a whole. So just want to, there are 2 videos that you guys can check
surprised. I haven't checked. Have you looked at Brett's TikTok in a while? Mm-mm. Me either. I haven't checked it. And I remember when he would put out videos like a year or 2 years ago, some of them would go, like, super crazy on TikTok. And I feel like he should have just found someone who's really good at condensing his YouTube videos into TikToks, because
he hasn't posted one since 2023.
Yeah, people eat that kind of shit up on there. Like, people who just, like, break down film. Yeah. And he's done it better on there than I've seen in a lot of other places, but that's another talking point.
All right, let's talk BDGE. You got 2 big things here. Number 1, you guys did the combine, so you took your staff, your employees, your talent out to New Jersey. We can play the clip. Nick, how was your performance?
My performance was, I didn't lose anybody any lines. That's all I could say.
Nick pulled his groin 3 steps into the first drill.
To be clear, I came in with a pulled groin. It just wasn't, I didn't put myself on the injury report, so maybe I can get a flag for that.
Yeah. No, you're fine for sure. But yeah, let's talk about the event. So you moved your whole setup out to a field in Jersey, live streamed the whole thing on YouTube, had about 700 to 1,000 live concurrents, which is really, really impressive. Had a bunch of people playing on Underdog, so satisfying the brand partner on that one. And not satisfying a brand partner, but integrating a brand into your content, which I think is super, super important.
Yeah, I think I think the coolest part about it was the fact that people can put their money on it, and in the sense of, like, that feels so unattainable. It feels like there are so many obstacles in the way of that happening, because you look at, again, you go onto the Underdog app the day of the combine, Saturday, 10 a.m., and it literally is like MLB, NFL, NHL, BDGE, and you're like, how the fuck did we get there?
It's like MLB, NFL, NHL, like soccer, esport. Like, you had to scroll,
whatever, motherfucker.
Which I think is a little fucked up on the Underdog side. But
thank you, I agree. But the point being is, like, it feels like it was so unattainable, and it feels like such a cool thing to have happened that's why I appreciate Underdog so much, is because they, like, go above and beyond to make sure that we feel like we're a part of what they're doing, and make sure that we feel like they're going above and beyond to, like, get that stuff going. The combine itself is, again, the live events, it is so hard to think through every little detail and have contingency plans for everything that may or may not go wrong. For everything that we did, very few hiccups.
Yeah, I think that's the toughest part with events. Like, the stream was delayed because you guys forgot a cable by like 7 minutes, scrambled and figured that out. And then you pulled your groin, and right, people are putting real money on this. How's this going to be handled? Yeah. Benefit of working with a good partner. Those were the two that came to mind. And then you obviously had someone participate who shouldn't have been allowed to participate given their athletic ability. I won't name names or anything, but
Absolutely outrageous.
I thought it came off amazing.
I absolutely bossed the punt, pass, and kick. So
That was one of the more impressive feats of the entire day, putting the ball on the goal line and booting it through.
Yeah, I thought it went off amazing. I assume the takeaway was really happy with it and run it back next year at the Combine.
We'll definitely do it. Yeah, we're seeing if we can get like an NFL integration there.
But like we joke, right?
Brett went to it, so why not us?
So I think this is always what comes back to part one of this entire show. Like, what else would you rather be doing on a Saturday than like fucking around in Jersey and people putting money on you, trolling, fading you, riding with you, whatever. Like, that is the dream. And it's cool because, like, Underdog's not a partner of the NFL, but I don't think it's out, maybe not year two, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities that, like, the week of the Combine, if they had everything set up, they would let you, like.
It's almost like the Puppy Bowl before the Super Bowl. You know? It's
they
like
might just let you.
They're like the BDGE Combine's going to be televised on, like, Tuesday night or something.
Okay, all right. Dead ass.
Did you see actually?
Why did I say dead ass? I'm not 22. Being serious, could they have a creator combine?
Being even more serious, after the first night of the NFL draft on the NFL Network, the fantasy footballers are getting a full hour or 2 hours streaming, like recapping the first round.
They let creators announce draft picks. Like, it seems out of the realm of possibilities, but what we discussed, was it last episode or off air?
It was last episode.
You don't
like
really,
anything is possible.
Yeah, anything is possible. So
you just have to ask.
We should set that as a goal, and I'll be there next year.
Oh, yeah? You're only going to show up once we have the NFL backing us.
Yeah, I'm not going to Jersey. I'll go to
that one.
Green Bay is actually we should do it in Green Bay next year. We
already had enough like weather concerns going into it.
What do you mean? Green Bay in April is beautiful.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
That
feels like a long way with all the equipment
let's do
that
it
we
in
got to
Green Bay
bring.
next year.
I'm not locking that in right now.
Why?
Because
why?
That's because we have to find a field that we can lock down.
Done.
I just don't believe you.
I'll handle it.
You'll handle the field?
And let's get live people out.
Live
event.
If you're going to handle the field.
Do you think it would be entertaining as a live event? Probably not.
It was a live event.
No, but like in person. There's a difference, right? Like watching someone live.
Wait, what?
There's like
we did the event live.
No, I'm saying fans and people coming out.
Oh, we were thinking about that for sure.
Do you think that's the type of event? Like, I'd rather do like a flag football game.
Flag football would be better.
Right.
Combine for live event, it might not
Probably
be great.
not
we were like serious while we were there. Not that I participated, but like the guys that were in it doing it were like locked in.
So
they wanted
maybe
to
you do
well.
the combine into flag football, like whatever. But we'll be in Green Bay next April. Come check us out. Underdog Fantasy. When's this coming out?
Oh, also that's the other reason because we're doing the combine. We're doing the combine next year when the combine happens NFL wise.
That's what I mean.
It's not April.
Oh,
it's like February. And Green Bay in Feb.
No, it's in March. Wait, why? What makes you?
We wanted to do it this year because I mean it just aligns better. Like people are hyped up at the combine. We want to have our own combine.
I feel like people are hyped up about the draft, and then we're in Green Bay. We're eating cheese curds. Anyways, Will, when's this episode coming out?
April 24th.
All right, perfect. I want to make an announcement
About your COO?
Not about the COO. Snapback Sports and Underdog Fantasy have agreed to a 3-year extension. I'll be returning as the head of winning to the company. By the time everyone's seeing this,
that had to have been the sticking point in negotiations. They're like, we can't give you.
Never of question.
We can't give you the head of winning.
That was never in question.
I know you took a massive pay cut to keep that title.
To keep the title. To keep the title. Yeah, I'm really excited about it to be joined up with you guys for the next however long you're with them. But yeah, we're with them for 3 years, which will make 6 by the time that we're done.
It's almost like a marriage.
That is literally a marriage. I will be
What's the average marriage length in America?
Ooh, can't be 6.
You think it's less?
Please. Moment, please.
Yeah, I'm going to call it 4.2.
4.2.
Yep, 4.2 years.
I'm gonna take the over on 4.2.
I'll take way under on that.
Way under.
8 years.
Oh my God, dub.
It's about double that.
In Italy.
What? That's in the U.S., you cunt.
No. Look, Italy's is about double that.
Oh, Italy's 16. They don't do shit. They just get up, sit in the sun, drink
Qatar's-
coffee.
In Qatar, they kill their wives 5 years.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. And with that being said, the Underdog Creator Combine will be in Green Bay next year. I hope to join.
All right. Well, then you're getting insurance on the field.
Is that what you had to do?
Yeah.
So did you cash in yet? On your
That's a
medical
great point.
procedure?
Oh my God. I gotta go get
all right,
surgery.
let's
I
talk-
gotta get surgery ASAP.
Let's talk about huge launch. I mean, this is
Big. This is big.
Like, I didn't realize. So you tweeted out big day. I quote tweeted it because
To be fair, there was no link to those. The big day me tweeting out had nothing to do with the
Okay,
product
yeah,
launch.
'cause you
It
tweet
was
that all the
just a big day.
Yeah, we hired a COO, which is hype. We got a new.
That's a big day.
Sorry, I think he's a who. I think I only give him head of operations. But Sean, really excited to have Sean on the team.
I think that's actually a hoe.
What up, ho? So that I thought was the big news of the day. But then you guys launched your product. So let me give some background. You set the stage for Brett. Nick's company, BDGE, they create fantasy football content, but trivia content. So they'll sit down on this couch. You've probably seen the backdrop before. They'll post TikToks and then long-form YouTube videos with different sports trivia, mainly NFL, football. Over the last, how long would you say this took from start to finish?
Fucking way too long. We had our first version of trivia being built in the over a year ago, like the grid trivia.
Yeah.
Everyone probably knows it from what are the ones that do it now?
Yeah, Immaculate.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have a vlog on our YouTube channel from like a year and a half ago with it in production and like close to finishing.
Yeah.
Probably 6 months before any of
Scrapped it?
We didn't scrap it. Our developer, we ended up like parting ways with our developer at the time, so we needed to obviously just put that on the back burner.
Yeah.
But we had that close to ready to go about 6 months before any of those companies pushed out. And that's kind of what kills me, that it took so long for us to get out, because we left like so much juice kind of sitting
You
there.
think?
Yeah.
But would you build something that doesn't have the lasting power of like that's beyond a trend?
The grid was the game that was popular at the time. What we are building is
Like you could build Sporkle 2.0.
correct, and that's always been the plan. But the
Yeah.
grid was popular at the time when we started building it.
You could have gotten a lot of value out of it.
What I'm saying
but
is,
then it would be worthless now.
sure, but we would have innovated to the next game that we wanted to play. Like, it was never about the grid itself. It was the fact that we were building the
get a
trivia
product.
games that early about what we were playing.
Why don't you share what you did?
So we launched on our website, bdge.co, our first like product of the trivia game, where we are able to input any trivias that we make. Like today's one that went live was, can you name every active wide receiver that was a first round pick in the NFL draft? There's 36 of them. So the grid is made up. You're able to guess the player. If it's correct, you get a thumbs up and it shows the player, whatever it is. And you have a score at the end of it that you could share online and et cetera. And we launched it on Monday for the first time. And one of the biggest things that we needed to like think about pre-launch, obviously JL, who was our CTO, put a fuck ton of work into making this happen over the last couple of months.
So he's just typing letters and then it appears.
Yeah. Like coding is
blows
just
my
it's some shit, brother.
Like he actually built it off words.
You don't want to see his code base. You
Yeah.
don't want to see what goes on like under the hood there.
No, it freaks me out.
It's disgusting.
I
Yeah.
can't even conceptualize how words could make the things go.
It's the most beautiful thing ever. Like I wish I was good at it.
Like I'm sure that when he
That's why I say I
finally
wish
hit
I could
the
do it,
last key-
because I would have made 40 trivia games by now. You know, if that's why I always talk about like I wish I was good at coding, because like I would have fucking done this myself.
Yeah.
But I'm not, and I couldn't, so it didn't happen. Today, one of the things we really had to think about was the product integration into our content, because it's like, sure, we could make a product come out and then like tweet about it a couple times, but it's like if it's not hitting you in your face over and over and over and over again, people are going to forget about it or be like, I don't really care. So we had to think strategically about like the game going live the same day that we make the content, and also making the content obviously takes a couple days to edit. So it was like, how do we film it, whatever the case may be. So we had the first one go live on Monday, and we've had TikToks to back it up. And I'm kind of going into like a little bit of like business mode where I'm like replying to comments on TikTok of me like just speaking to people about it and asking for their feedback, et cetera, which again creates like more like humanization of our brand. Plus it allows people to give feedback. So we're like 2 days into it, and I could kind of check the numbers right now.
Yeah. How many? So you need to sign up to play, right? You cannot play unless you sign up.
You cannot play unless you make an email account. You cannot make an account on the website by putting your email in.
That's interesting. Was there any discussion around that?
Yeah.
And why did you opt to gatekeep? Even though it's free, that is a step, a major step.
It's a major step we have a major fucking advantage of where we are because our distribution is so large and our brand in terms of people knowing who we are that are in our audience, like knowing us.
Right, but I assume
most people are hesitant to give information to people, to brands, to companies, to websites because they're like, I don't know who the fuck this is. I don't know where this is going. I don't know what this is going to do. But since they trust us, they're like, okay, we'll give you the email. I don't care. Like, as long as I go get to play the trivia game. We thought it was a low enough barrier. We're not making them pay. We're not making them give all this other information. But it also helps us for a bunch of other reasons.
100%. But don't you think you had those people? Obviously, sending an email is more direct. But you had those people. These people that you're promoting to are watching your TikToks and YouTube already. So what's the plan? Don't you want to get outside of that audience?
I'm not sure I understand.
Like, don't you want new users who aren't aware of BDGE? And isn't the fact that you're not paywalling it, but essentially paywalling with an email, doesn't that prohibit that and decrease the shareability?
Possibly. It could. I think our user base is like strong enough now. And again, I don't think the barrier to entry is high enough to the point where it becomes a problem for most people. It's not like, and it's also not set up in like a spammy way where if Sporkle made you make an email address, I can already imagine what their like sign up form looks like.
Yeah,
Let's sign in through 17 different avenues. Plus here's a fucking 2 pop-up ads on the right side. It's not like that. It's a very simple, clean process. And once you're logged in, it doesn't like log you out. You're logged in for like whatever. The other thing with that is we can spin it into like a value prop. You're logged in. Now we can make a leaderboard because your shit is being saved.
No, I get that. I'm just surprised that you guys wouldn't go free to play. And then once you complete it, it's like, want to see where you rank, or do you plan on playing every day?
To be honest with you, I just thought the conversion rate was so easy for us that I'm like, we're going to be missing out on a big opportunity.
But I'm saying you're already capturing the people that you already have. How to get new people outside of the audience, and that's by this virality.
Our main goal is not to get new people outside of the audience.
Really?
Our main
Why?
goal is to be able. I'm not saying it's not a goal. I'm just saying capturing the email is more important than spreading this, and I think we could do both without a problem.
Yeah.
And I think the numbers already are backing that up. We've had 11,500 people play, or brand new users, like unique users, sign up with emails through the first 48 hours. Actually, it's really like 24, 36 hours of the first launch of it, which is a huge number. And that's a huge number of emails to pull off.
It's a monster number.
And we're seeing like quote tweets of it being shared, and other TikTok creators are now starting to make content with it. Nice. And that will have its own explosive.
Yeah.
I genuinely, I've been monitoring every TikTok that we put out about it, every YouTube video that we put out about it, any tweets about it. Out of all the hundreds, probably thousands actually, of like just pieces of engagement we've got so far, one single TikTok comment of being like, why do we have to put our email address in? Like, not a single, most people who don't want to do it would come back and comment about it.
No. I don't think, I'm not surprised that you've captured that many emails. I'm not surprised by anything. I think it's going extremely well. I just think it's a very interesting question of, what is the optimization, right? Like, it's just a decision. There might not even be a right decision, but I would imagine you'll probably test it at some point. All right, so once you've gobbled up all the emails, right?
Yeah.
Let's call it.
Now we can do whatever we want with those emails.
No, but I'm saying once the diminishing returns on the new signups have happened, right? So let's call it 3 months down the road, right? Where you're instead of gaining 6,000 a day, you're gaining 60 a day, right? You flip it and you test it, and it's like, well, if we're unlocked and more people are tweeting about it, more posting about it, like, does that lead into more unique hits, and then we transfer it down to an email, whatever.
That's definitely a strategy down the line. I guess my thing is like, I think the power of 10,000 direct communication audience members is more powerful than 50,000 5x like random people out there that actually don't speak to you or hear from you or whatever the case may be. Because now it's like, had we launched this 2 weeks ago and had this email list, we could have hit them with a, hey, the combine starts in an hour. Hey, the combine starts right now. And we could have had 3,000, 5,000 concurrent viewers. And we look at it from a non-spamming point of view where it's like we're not trying to like interrupt their lives really. We're trying to like give them more of the value that they came to begin with. Yeah. So it's like a customer that might be on the email list, their lifetime value might be 10 times higher than just a guy who comes to play trivia on the website itself. So the way I'm thinking about it is like, okay, those are going to be the first people that probably buy merch when we drop the merch because we can directly contact them and give them like a special promo code. Those are the people that are going to watch our NFL draft live stream. Those are the people, like those people that we can get direct contact with. And we had something, so we had something similar where the other reason I knew this was going to work well is because when we were doing Ice Lunch and we launched the leaderboard product, which was a piece of software, we got 75,000 emails in the first 48 hours. Like an insane fucking number.
75K?
75K, yeah. And the amount that I had to, what email? Do you guys use like an email software service?
But yeah, I know.
We're using ConvertKit. And you pay per the number of emails that you have.
Yeah.
And that like 48-hour period, I think cost us like 10 grand.
Yeah.
To keep continuing like to up the number of emails we had on it. The problem was, like nothing that we really had or offered at the time aligned with the fucking emails that we just collected.
Yeah.
Now, these people are people that they're in like the NFL world. They're in our larger ecosphere. So it's like we have this raw volume of data knowing that like, okay, this number of like TikTok viewers based on that previous series will convert into this. It's not, it told us that it wasn't a high barrier. It told us that like people will do this because we're not asking for anything else besides this simple piece of information. And I think that like conversion rate on like having to give the email is something that goes around a lot, or I don't want to say is a myth on social media. People talk about it a lot, but a lot of the people that talk about it don't have brands, or they don't have like the connection to an audience like creator-led brands do. So it doesn't feel like a high bar for me. Maybe we'll hit a point where it's like, all right, this was starting to become a problem where we see more and more comments about it. But for right now, we have had like no real negative feedback about it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's a really good, like insightful conversation.
Like I think about the Immaculate Grid game and it was like everyone's Wordle, same thing. Like everyone's post.
See, had they put an email on the front of it, their conversion rate would drop by like 75 to 80% because they don't have a face of what the fuck they're doing. People trust us because they know us.
Yes.
You disagree with that?
No. They trust. I agree with that. Mm-hmm. But it also would have been played way, way less.
Yeah.
Because it's not open. And
I'm saying our distribution is so fucking large now that I think I get what you're saying. It's
you're
like
saying within your audience is all I'm saying.
Yeah. And I'm saying like the I'm talking about going deeper rather than larger. And I think the larger stuff will eventually like start to be a compounding effect because of it. And I agree with you because like in the same way that I said their conversion rate would probably have gone down 70, 80%.
Yeah.
That would have to be, me saying that would mean that would have to be true for all the people that have never came across BDG before and only went to the site to play the game. So that would have to be the same conversion rate drop off there too.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. I don't have the right answer for it, but like I've had enough experience. I feel like that my gut probably is guiding me the right way for this.
All right. That's all we got. Any lasting words?
No. How long was that, Will?
1 hour, a little under an hour.
Cool.
How much time we got left?
On what?
Until an hour.
Well, it's over an hour, but we started like recording like maybe 3 minutes before.
Okay, so we're over an hour. Yeah, no, we're good. We're good. You could share now. We gave enough value. Not you, Will. I'm talking
You
about
have to give an hour of value.
Yeah. One straight hour of raw dog.
And then we get to ask for a like.
Mm-hmm. Please.
Like it, please. Thank you.
Play trivia. Play trivia. Give us your email. Thank you for joining us on Big Content this week. As always, the only thing we will ask from you is to share, like, subscribe, follow, reply, retweet,